New Beginnings Toastmasters Club, please come to order. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests, to our Zoom meeting this evening. I'm Lee Walker, the Sergeant at Arms for the club, and we'll turn it over to our first role this evening, the invocation or joke master, Andrew Bullock.
Good evening. How is everybody doing today?
Great.
Good to see all your smiling faces online. Oftentimes, we find our motivation in things such as an inspirational quote or someone we admire. Honestly, I find my motivation in my work. Now, a lot of you already know what that is. What most of you do not know is my other inspiration is music. It inspires me and motivates me to get up every day and live. And that's how I like to be. So if you ever find something that inspires you, whether it's a song or whatever, don't be afraid to share it. You never know when that might have an effect on someone else. So, moving on with our day, I am going to introduce our incoming president, Mr. Robert Riggs, who has really stepped into the role and has been doing the job for 2 weeks already. He's working hard, but he has a few words that he wants to impart to you, and he calls this the duality of man. Mr. Robert Riggs.
Good evening. How is everybody this fine evening? And Madam Julita, if you could do me a favor, put 3 to 4 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and press start. I am here tonight to talk to you about something called the duality of man. Specifically, I'm talking about the duality within all of us, and I want to point out one individual, mainly Josiah John Paul, because you've taught me something, sir. You've taught me that there's more than just one side to a person. Actually, let me turn off the lights for just a minute, just so you can see. I actually have a coin here. Actually, that's even worse. But I have a coin here. And as you can see with the coin, there's a heads, and then there's a tails. Every part of us, every one of us, has more than one side, has more than one dimension. JP, when I first met him, was this really interesting kid who had all these aspirations. And I was like, okay, so you've got this motivation and this motivation and this motivation. But where is the work? Where is the evidence? Where is the planning? And so I came and I reached out to him. He came to, believe it or not, the very first Toastmasters event he ever went to was the conference last year. He went and paid for an entire Toastmasters conference in 2019 just because he was that dedicated. And I'm like, okay, this guy likes to take big steps. Let's see if he can walk the walk, if he's going to talk the talk. And what I discovered over time is that he was willing to walk the walk when he talked the talk. He stepped up as president last year and took everything in stride. Now, who here, honestly, can say that they can step into a president role from the get-go in a Toastmasters club after only being a Toastmaster for 6 months? Who thinks they could do that? Anybody? Apparently, JP's the only one. He did it with great ideas, with great visions, with great John, I guess, has enough guts to do it. But he really came into the club with a lot of great visions, a lot of great ideas, and he executed on almost all of them. Now, he had some people helping him, and that's one of the marks of a great leader, is knowing what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. And I thought, well, his strength is the vision. If his strength is leading us, then all we have to do is support him. There was some truth in that, but to be honest with you, what I discovered is there was a duality to who JP was. There was more than just who JP the visionary was. There was JP the planner. He actually targeted specific things. For example, I was like, let's all the officers need to meet together, right? All the officers need to meet in person, and this is the kind of thing that we're gonna do. He's like, no, I ain't having that. I'm the president, and he came up with better ideas in terms of how the officers were gonna meet, when we're going to meet, how we're going to organize ourselves. He planned out things well. Then he got people and put them in places in order to do them. So I applaud you, sir, for being a great planner as well. And as I continue my year, I hope to emulate the best parts of you, and any other side of the coin that anybody might have previously thought was just all of that was, honestly, I didn't honestly have 100% effort or 100% belief that you would be able to kill it on certain parts. But as you transition into the VPM role, you've managed to succeed gloriously. And I appreciate everything that you've done. So here's what's going to happen. Throughout the year, you see this coin. There's a heads and there's a tails. And every single meeting at the beginning, even though I'm technically the president, either be me as the acting president or JP. And at the very beginning, I will say, hey, JP, do me a favor real quick. Unmute yourself. Call heads or tails.
Tails. He's the god tails.
It was tails. So JP won, which means he gets to be the acting president for tonight.
How does that work?
At least for the next 6 months,
I
I'd like to praise and support our acting president for the evening, the one, the only. You did it before, you're going to do it again, Mr. Josiah John Paul.
I don't think that's how, like, does everybody else believe there should have been like a kind of guideline? I went for tails hoping I didn't have to do the introduction. But obviously, based off the meeting, I was a lose-lose regardless. But without further ado, welcome everybody to New Beginnings Toastmasters. As Robert said, I am the current VPM, and he is the current president. But right now, I'm doing the introduction just to get in the role and help Robert alleviate while he's doing his whole president thing, and I get to sit back and do some of the VPM stuff. Right now, just to start off, I do see a bunch of new faces, and if y'all wouldn't mind, I'd like to briefly introduce y'all. So then would the admin help me unmute these people? So I see a Lynn Claiborne. I briefly spoke to you earlier.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. I am Lynn Claiborne. I have been in Toastmasters for 4 years. I have held different positions, VPM, VPE, president, area director, club coach, Pathways Guide, and I'm currently a mentor to one of the clubs. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and be with all of you.
Ooh, wow. Wow. All right, Vernell Curtis, I also see you. I briefly spoke to you as well, and from my understanding, you're at Vincent Liu's club. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm PG Articulators and Tidewater Advanced. 2 clubs.
Oh, nice. And then what brings you to our club tonight?
I was invited by Andrew, and I'm Table Topics Master tonight.
Oh, wow. I see a Linda Hiller. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself as well?
Hi, can you hear me now? My name, I was invited by Tammy Adama, and actually I live in Northern Virginia, and since the COVID pandemic, I haven't been able to get to my own meeting. They're doing it on Zoom, but now I have something else during that time. I've been in Toastmasters for about 5 years and have held many different positions as well. It's just good to see everybody and to, oh, I missed it for the past 4 months. So it's great to see everyone, and thank you for letting me join you this time.
Oh, no, thank you. And I see Tiffany Dunbar. We briefly spoke over the phone, and I'm glad I got a hold of you. So would you like to briefly introduce yourself as well, Tiffany?
Yes, my name is Tiffany Dunbar, and I'm a distinguished Toastmaster. I recently moved into the area right in time for the COVID virus, okay? Which means that I haven't really had the opportunity to attend a lot of clubs, but I have been a member since October of 2007. So I've been a member for quite some time and I am enjoying the ride. So thank you so much, Jose, for reaching out to me, and I look forward to the meeting.
Oh, thank you again for showing up.
Right.
And can I get Marty, the general evaluator? And let me guess, someone invited you from another club, and that's it. Like, would you like to briefly introduce yourself, Marty?
Sure. I'm Marty Bussert. I was invited by Robert. And my home club is Voices of Change in Williamsburg. I've been a Toastmaster for about 5 years. And with Lynn in Division D, we were area directors last year. And this year, I'm working with the district as their finance manager.
Wow, that's great. That's actually a great job. So, and last, I see Betty Lewis. Do you have any background with Toastmasters, Betty?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Would you briefly introduce yourself, if you don't mind? If you wouldn't
Sure,
mind?
no problem. And let me take my camera off. Oh, that's helpful. Hi. I'm Betty. I am very shy. All of you guys came on with such confidence. I was like, this is going to be nerve-wracking for me. But I joined Toastmasters to try to overcome that very thing. My theme for this year is to do it scared. So that's why I have decided to join.
Oh, nice. And how did you hear about our club in particular?
Facebook. I was just literally online looking for some events, and I've been wanting to join Toastmasters for a while. A couple of my friends attend some clubs on the other side of the water, and I noticed that this place is literally around the corner from my home, and I really just wouldn't have a good excuse to not attend. So I was like, oh, they have Zoom too. I guess this is a non-threatening way to start, so.
Well, it was nice hearing from you as well, Betty.
Thank you.
Okay, so like without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the Toastmaster of the evening, Mr. Robert Riggs.
All right, everybody. Now, if I would ask Miss Cleo, if you give me a favor, unmute everybody. I want to hear, real quick, everybody unmute yourselves. A nice round of applause. Is everybody ready for this evening? Come on, clap. I want to hear the claps. You can clap louder than that. Come on. Welcome to New Beginnings Toastmasters. Our evening, unfortunately, we don't have a theme tonight, but we are going to have a great time. Tonight, we have not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 speakers. We have 5 speakers for this evening.
Boom.
All varying from, thank you, Mr. Gregory, all ranging from literally the second speech all the way up to like 7 or 8. So we got a lot of people starting in the L1s and the L2s kind of moving forward. And if they complete their speech tonight, I believe we actually have 2 individuals that are also getting awards. We have some new faces here, and we have some new faces doing some new roles. So I want to say thank you for everybody for coming out. That includes Lynn, our administration manager in District 66. Thank you, madam. That includes the one, the only Marty Bussert, our finance manager for the district. Thank you, sir. Sincerely appreciate you coming out. That includes Madam Vernell Curtis, somebody that I've seen speak multiple times, has won division awards. Thank you for coming out and being table topics tonight. Thank you, Linda. And if I'm not mistaken, you said you were DTM. Is that correct? Is that correct? Linda? No?
No, that was Tiffany.
Oh, Tiffany, I'm sorry. Tiffany, you're the DTM. Okay, very cool. But Linda, you're trying this for the first time, right? Well, you're in for a show tonight. Here's what happens, and the other DTMs, the other individuals will tell you this. Toastmasters is about 3, maybe 4 parts. We've got a speaking part. Tonight we have 5 speakers. Then we have a table topics portion where we get up and we have impromptu speeches. So Vernell's going to run table topics for us. Then we're going to have a third portion, which is speech evaluators. That's where we would have people coming up and commenting on how everybody's doing on their speeches. And then finally, the last part, the very last part, we'll have a general evaluation, and we'll hear from our role reports. So without further ado, I would like to call up the one, the only, Marty Bussert, our general evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster. For those guests who are unfamiliar with Toastmasters, Toastmaster meetings typically fall into 3 categories: prepared speeches, then impromptu speeches, which we call table topics, and then evaluations. The general evaluator, the role that I'm filling tonight, is the one who's in charge of the evaluation portion meeting. And what I will do is I will listen to the entire meeting and give it my overview at the end. And I will also call on certain members to give report. And I'd like to introduce those people to you right now. As I call your name, if you would give a brief introduction as to what your role is for tonight's meeting. Our grammarian counter, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, Joshua Jean-Paul.
Hey, close enough. That's close enough. But as he said, I am the grammarian counter for the night. So as the counter, I will be listening to everybody speaking and not just the speakers. I'll be listening for filler words, you know, or repeaters. And for a grammarian, I'll be listening to everybody's grammar, and at the end of the night, I will give a report about what I've heard and suggestions on what I've liked and what people can improve on. Thank you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, JP. Much easier. And now our word master and listen up, Lee Walker.
Okay. In Toastmasters, we have speaking roles, but also we want to become good listeners. So there is the listen up role. I'll be listening to tonight's speakers and table topics, coming up with some questions to ask all of you to answer toward the end of the meeting. And also as word master, we want to help improve our speaking and our vocabulary. So we have the word master role, and I've come up with the word axiomatic, and I'll put the word out in the chat. Its definition is self-evident, unquestionable, and a sentence. You might think the solution is axiomatic, but I need more evidence. So word of the evening is axiomatic, and I'll, as I said, put it out in the chat to have this spelling. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lee. Next up is our timer, Julita Pittman. Is she here? There she is.
Hello, everybody. I'm Julita. How are you doing? For speakers today, we're doing 5 to 7 minutes. And for evaluators is 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm using the green and yellow and red for the timer.
Okay, thank you, Julita. And finally, our topics master, Brunel Curtis.
Good evening, everyone. Table topics, impromptu speaking. And that's going to be my role for this evening. I'm going to give everyone a question, used to speak at least 2 minutes, and we're going to have a lot of fun. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Vernell. Well, I think there's no question we're going to have an axiomatic meeting. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to our Toastmaster of the day, Robert.
Thank you, everybody. Now comes the one, the only, the best part of the evening, My favorite part, the prepared speeches. We actually have 5 speakers tonight, and before anything, I do want to make one small correction. We will not be able to have Evaluator 2, maybe, I don't know, but if anybody's available to act as an extra backup evaluator, maybe if there was a DTM in the audience by the name of Tiffany, would you might be willing to evaluate if that's okay? If no, that's okay. Can we unmute Tiffany, please?
Yes.
Are you comfortable evaluating somebody tonight?
Sure.
Okay, excellent. So our second speaker is going to be Mr. John Gregory. He is giving his second speech for the evaluation feedback number 1. So I asked if you'd be willing, go ahead and evaluate him tonight. Is that okay?
Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you, madam. Appreciate it. And I do apologize. I was corrected by Tammy. Thank you. Linda, you've been in for 5 years. So my bad. I didn't realize that. So thank you for coming out tonight. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome up our first speaker of the evening. That's going to be Miss Asha Zar. She is also giving her very second speech, not her icebreaker, her second speech. She's in Pathways Motivational Strategies, Evaluation Feedback number 1. The title of her speech is Phantastical Phantasms. If you are like Asha Zar, a self-professed nerd, you may know that Phantastical and Phantasms derive their spellings from the Greek letter phi, also known as phi. You may also be able to look at a name and be able to deduce someone's country of origin and find your desire to engage this person in conversation heightened. Whether you eschew reading or embrace it wholeheartedly, Asha will, in the next 5 to 7 minutes, Madam Timer, 5 to 7 minutes, share how the pleasures of the written word have enhanced her life. Please welcome to the lectern the one, the only, the lovely, the glorious Asha Zar.
Thank you. Robert, could I ask you to please unmute Tammy as well? I need a supporting player here. Thank you so much. Well, the time has come. The walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot and whether pigs have wings. Do pigs indeed fly? I don't know, but Lewis Carroll seemed to think that they did. This is not precisely what I read when I began my journey into the pleasures of reading books when I was very young, and my stepmom brought this tome home from school, The Anthology of Children's Literature. Yes, I read this at 6 years old, and the first myths that I read were Nordic myths. So I wrote something for you. Does it seem any more that the days have barely begun before they fall away? We have a lot to do anymore, don't we? Well, eons ago, when the sea was so vast that it covered the sky, and when breezes played lightly upon oceans with sweet-smelling perfume, oceans so high that they submerged the sunlight from villages below, a very young child called to her oldest of 5 grandmothers and cried, "Nana, Nana, there's a ship sliding down the mountain, and our house is falling up." Well, you might not be familiar with my kind of fantasy, but you've probably come into contact with it in your daily life, whether through movies or books. And how I came to love this is I was read to as a child, and I began very late in life to start to read. It wasn't until I was 5 years old, and then I was very shy. I'd been abandoned by my birth mom, and reading became an escape. So as many of us do, I escaped into books. I would like to ask you, Tammy, in terms of escape, do you have a favorite television show?
I do. Anne with an E.
Anne with an E. Can you tell me about it? Do you have a favorite character, favorite lines?
Well, Anne is my favorite character, and the quote that I most like of hers is, "The world looks like something God has just imaged for his own pleasure, doesn't it?"
Nice. I like that. Do you know if this show is based on a book by chance?
It is Anne of Green Gables.
Thank you. So I was always told growing up that the book is always better than the movie. I tend to agree. And one of my favorite books, which I could no longer read, or rather it took me about 6 years after the Lord of the Rings series came out before I could read them again, is The Hobbit and the Tolkien trilogy. That book is very special to me because or the series, because I could visualize everybody. And I loved the words in Elvish that were used. I loved the dwarf's grunts and the lyricism of the Elvish words. I love nuances of character, their thoughts, and you can speculate about what you read. You can learn how to put something together, or you can go to a distant land. You can pretend you're someone who you could have been in days long ago, or someone in the future. And through reading, I have been able to not only explore outer worlds, but via self-help books. And not necessarily mythological books, but books about other worlds. I've learned such different phrases as Om Mani Padme Hum, which is used in Tibet to calm oneself down and uplift oneself, which is very nice in this day and age. And I also learned a word in the song Hue, which is even more powerful than the commonly known Om. But going back to books, of course, there was nothing written before Gutenberg. And Gutenberg invented the press in Germany, in Mainz, and until then, there was nothing written down. Fortunately for all of us bibliophiles, if you like myself are a bibliophile, there were explorers who went around the world, traveled, they wanted spices, they plundered, they took the lot of the spoils, whether it be the beautiful women, the cities of gold and myrrh and all of that good stuff, and they brought it back for us. And we discovered along the way that many stories had similar origins, such as Cinderella. And Cinderella was not only found in Germany, but it's also found here in this book, World Tales by Idris Shah, and Cinderella happens to be an Algonquin princess. So I found that rather interesting. Because of words, I am able to not only tell the last names of people, but I can actually read a little bit of French just because of shampoo bottles, etc. And my love of language has brought me to the point where I have studied a little bit of Latin, a little bit of French, and made friends with people from all over the world. And with this, I say thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and I shall be back soon with a better version that you can all enjoy in the future.
Thank you, Asha. Let's be honest. A better version? Yeah, okay, maybe. But honestly, that was pretty darn good. So A better version might be hard to get. That's all I'm going to say. It definitely was not bad. Okay, that was one of the best speeches I've heard in a while on that particular topic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've heard a lot of speeches on reading, especially from my past president in another club. You did great, so don't think you did bad. I loved it. If I could have 1 minute on the clock, please, real quick, for the timer. Give me 1 second. We're going to go ahead and in this minute, I'd like you to evaluate Asha personally. Now, obviously, we have an evaluator 1 who's going to evaluate her verbally, but anybody who wants to give their thoughts on Asha's speech, her wonderful speech, don't let her fool you. It was actually pretty good. Go ahead and send her a private message. So in the very bottom of the Zoom window, you see where it says chat, click there, then click on Asha's name where it says Asha Speaker 1 and send her a private message and just give your general feedback. You know, good, bad, all that good stuff. Mostly good, because let's be honest, there was mostly good in that speech. So Asha, very nice. All right. Now for our next speaker of the evening. You can still continue to send messages to Asha about her wonderful speech, but in the interim, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next speaker of the evening, Mr. John Gregory. Now, I will actually help him with this speech. I think you all are going to love it. The title, by the way, is pretty interesting. It's Danger Dan. He's going to tell us all about Danger Dan. John Gregory is speaking out of the Motivational Strategies Pathways, Evaluation Feedback #1. So just like Asha, this is his second speech. The way evaluation and feedback works is you give one speech and then you get a feedback from it, you get an evaluation, and you try to either give the same speech again and improve upon it, or give a different speech, but make sure you use the evaluation material to improve on your next speech. So John, you're tasked with giving one heck of a speech and even trying to make it better. Let's see if you can do it. The speech title, Danger Dan. Our second speaker is going to be giving his second speech. He will be talking about the pursuit of true happiness. Please welcome to the lectern, the one, the only, Danger Dan.
John, what's going on? My name's John Gregory. I'm going to be talking about this really awesome trip that I just went on. Before I get into that, I really want to discuss a couple things about myself. I'm actually 24 years old, and I feel like I've only been living for about a year. Let me go into that a little bit. Basically, my whole life, I've always been kind of stuck in the past or dreaming about the future, never really living in the moment. I'm always on my phone, checking text messages on Instagram, on the phone, checking the news. There's always something going on in my life that keeps me distracted. And that keeps me wondering, what am I really living for? Because if you're always doing the same routines every single day, waking up the same spot every morning, same spot in bed, brush your teeth, go to the same job, think the same thoughts, nothing new ever happens, and it's like you're living in a program. When you're living in a program, you're not actually free. You're holding yourself back from freedom and happiness that you could achieve by living in the moment. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit on the trip I went on to kind of get me away from that mindset. So basically, I went up to Richmond. I went with my girlfriend and a couple of our friends, and we actually went whitewater rafting. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have been before, but it is a lot of fun. I haven't been but one time when I was a kid, and I can't even remember it, but this time was awesome. We took a 2-hour drive. We went up to Richmond, got to this parking lot, and they had a white van there that all the people there were going on the tours that day. We had to wait and get on the bus, or the van. So basically, when we get there, the first thing they tell us to do is to leave our cell phones behind. Now, a lot of you would probably be freaking out a little bit because it's like, oh, my phone, I'm so connected to my phone, I can't leave it behind. But for me, that was no problem because I knew I was going to have as much fun as I can in this one moment and only focus on that. So I start talking to our tour guide. He's a really cool guy, and he starts telling me a little bit about himself, and I asked what his name was, and what he told us his name was Danger Dan. All right, so out of all the guides I could get, we get this guy that he looks young, he looks reckless, he looks ready to go, and he's amped up, and his name is Danger Dan. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is either gonna be crazy or a lot of fun, but either way, I'm hyped up and I'm excited. So we ended up getting on this van, driving up the mountain to the top of the river. And when we get there, we basically take our raft out and walk probably 10 minutes or so down to the water. On the way there, I'm seeing all these pretty rocks, rapids, people swimming, dogs having a good time, and just people having a great time with their day. So he starts going over the rules with us a little bit, telling us about, 1, 2, 3 paddle, what to do when the rapids get a little intense, because we're going on class 3 and 4 rapids. They're pretty big rapids. So we get on the boat and we start going out there, and the first thing I noticed was how still the water was. Right when we first started, there's not a lot of rapids or anything. It's just a steady flow. And that has me thinking, maybe this is a good time to go swimming. So a lot of us are talking to Danger Dan, and Danger Dan's like, hey guys, if you want to jump in, you can do it. This is the great time to do it. So I jump in and I'm swimming. The water feels awesome. I'm just kind of floating with the current, no care or worry in the world. And a little bit of time goes by and he's like, all right, guys, we got to get back in. We're about to hit some rapids and we're going to go downstream a little bit. So we all get back in. Danger Dan pulls us up back into the raft and we start going downstream and the rapids start getting a little bit heavier. We're passing all these rocks. The waves are kind of crashing up and down, doing lots of crazy stuff. And he's saying, 1, 2, 3, go, 1, 2, 3. So we're all paddling and we're going and going. And as we're going, I start thinking about, how are we going to make it through this? Like, some of these waves look crazy. When you hit these waves, it looks like you should have just been flipped over as you were going. So Danger Dan's over there encouraging us and he's like, go, 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 keep rowing. We're making it through. We finally get through. We get a little bit downstream and there's this really awesome island. It's very small, but it has some awesome trees growing on and stuff like that. And the coolest thing about it was that there's a rope swing. So all the people on our raft get out, me and my girlfriend are friends, and then a couple of the other tour guides and their passengers get out as well. We all go and start discussing a little bit. Danger Dan brought pretzels, so we start eating some pretzels of all the things, to snack on, which was cool. And we go up the top of this little island, and I'm the first one on the rope swing because I was like, I am living in the moment. I am having a great time. So I go to the top, grab this rope. It's probably about 10 foot high, and I swing off. Danger Dan's like, do a flip, do a flip. So I try the best of my ability to do a backflip, and I end up twisting my body and doing some you don't even want to know. I did something crazy, but I was splashing. It hurt really bad, but I had a lot of fun, and we just kept going. And it was really nice to talk to the other people that were there because they were all really great people, and they were all just enjoying it. And I realized we're all living in that moment together, not thinking about phones or anything like that. So, meeting all these great people and having fun made me realize that tomorrow is not guaranteed. I'm living life like tomorrow doesn't exist because this moment is all that matters. Happiness, true happiness, is in the moment that you're living in. It's not in the past, it's not in the present, it's not in the future. And you have to let go of these daily stresses and stuff to realize the purpose of life and what you're actually living for. And that's what I was finding out when I was going rafting, is that this is what life is. This is so much better than this world that we're all stuck in. So anyways, we start loading back up into the rafts. We start heading downstream, and right before we're about to head downstream, there's a huge thunderstorm rolling in. The clouds are super black. It looks like it's about to just let loose. So we're like, all right, we're almost done. Let's go, let's go. So it's starting to get crazy. It's really windy, and it actually made the rapids a lot cooler. So we're going down, we're at the last stretch, it's called the pipeline, and that's where all these waves are really going back and forth. It's like a class 4, it's really narrow, lots of rocks and stuff. It's really crazy, it's the hardest part. So we're going down and he's telling us left, right, we're going and going. There's lightning striking behind us. There's rain about to pour down. Some guy's taking our picture in the left. I'm over here posing with my arm, trying to have a great time when all this craziness is happening. And we finally get to the end and get out. Danger Dan kind of says his goodbyes and stuff like that. And we get back in the van and we start heading home. Now in that moment, I'm thinking to myself like, wow, I had the greatest time. We all had a great time. And that's when I really, really started to take it all in and realize that when you're really in the moment and you're not thinking about who's judging you or what bills you have to pay or whatever else is going on in your life, and you're actually living life the way you're meant to be living life in its purest sense, that is true happiness. And I think that's one thing that we all need to understand more about and try to pursue. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful, wonderful speech. And I don't know who's ever actually seen South Park before, but there is one of my favorite episodes has a guy very similar to Danger Dan, and he says, if you're gonna pizza or French fry, and you're gonna French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're gonna have a bad time. So Danger Dan sounds like a ski instructor that has a really good time. And to be honest with you, even I think that coming to Toastmasters is a great time. That right there, that speech, you were having a great time. We were having a great time. Fantastic. We didn't have a bad time. Danger Dan, we had a fun time. So John Gregory, thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that. If we could have 1 minute on the clock, Madam Timer, if that's okay. Our Madam Timer over here is going to give us 1 minute on the clock. So, all right, 1 minute is up. With that being said, we're going to move on to our next speaker of the evening. This is our third speaker. And this is Mr. Zachary Phillips' third speech. It is his second speech in evaluation and feedback. His goal was to improve on his second speech so that his third speech is better. He's using the evaluation he got about a month ago. Is that right? Maybe June 9th. Is that right, Zach?
Around there, yeah.
So he's using his evaluation he got on June 9th from the exact same speech. He chose to give the exact same speech. He could have given a different one, but he's giving the exact same speech, using that information from his evaluation to get better. So let's see if he did. Zachary Phillips, giving his third speech. It's his second speech in evaluation feedback number 2 from the visionary communication path. Speech title, From Hoarder to Helper, Hobbies, LPs, and I. Our next speaker tonight is in the process of rekindling his old passion, one song at a time. Please welcome to the lectern, the one, the only, the musical, the fantastic Zach Phillips.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Robert, and greetings, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is Zach Phillips, and I am a vinylholic. Now, what does that mean? Did I just make up that word? Yeah, I just made up that word. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, it's like what a lot of people are doing with toilet paper these days. They're buying a whole bunch of it, like a stockpile, and then they think, oh, you know, someday I'll get around to using this. And yeah. But I mean, the analogy isn't direct, but at the same time, I have somewhere over 2,000 records, and I think I've only listened to about half of them. And so let me play a little musical sample real quick. All right, that was just a brief little sample of this. And if anyone who can tell me, especially if you're under 30, what this is. Not the name of the artist, not the beautiful cover, not the title of the track. What actually is this? Anyone want to be unmuted real quick? If not, it's a long playing vinyl record. It's one of the oldest forms of listening to music, and in my opinion, one of my favorite, or the best. This isn't a forensic argument about how I'm right and how you're wrong, any lecture, anything like that. This is actually a story about how I turned what is a hobby into sort of like a habit, and then I sort of made like a hoard, and now I'm trying to help. So I grew up in the early 80s, and I had like a sort of an older father, and he would buy, or he bought a lot of records in the 60s and the 70s. And my mother, she bought, cute little children's albums like Chipmunks Out records and things like that. And so like I really found a great love for vinyl records. And throughout, even high school, I would listen to vinyl records. And so I went off to college, and even though I didn't have a record player, I was buying records. I mean, it was like a $1, a $2 type thing here and there, but I was sort of like accumulating the records, just, here and there once on occasion. And I graduated college, and I met this like really fun, cool, avid record collector. And he taught me a little bit more about, records, what's good, what's bad. I mean, he would buy like sometimes $20, $30. He even one time has like a $500 record. He bought a $500 record. And so, naturally, since I would buy the more commonplace records, we would go to his house, and I would listen to the record, and I would listen mostly to his records. And so like we would go all around, different stores around Columbus, because I'm from Ohio. And I would purchase a lot of records, he would purchase a lot of records, and we would mostly just listen to his. So basically that was like wash, rinse, repeat. Like I ended up only listening to, 1 or 2 records, and then just owning probably like 20 records, and just happened over and over and over again. And I moved down to North Carolina, and I was still buying lots of records, and only really listening to, a couple of them a week or even a month. I was just buying records, just like, why am I doing this? But nonetheless, I was doing it. And then I finally moved to Virginia, and I moved a lot of my records in the storage unit. I had a lot of records at my dad's house, but I didn't have a record player. And I was just finally just thinking it over one day, and I was like, I got to stop the addictive cycle. And and then I got all of my records in this apartment, and I had all the records in one bedroom. So like, and my goal obviously was to listen to records. So, but I mean, it was sort of like a chore, because even though I set up my record player, I had all my records basically thrown in one room. Like it was basically a chore just to go to listen to a record. And so I finally came up with, how to rekindle my love, and that is to develop a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is basically designed to sort of like a win-win situation, because I get to listen to 1 record a day or more, and I also get to tell and share people and inform people about my decisions, or the decisions they should have based on my feelings about the record. I mean, play it, buy it if you want it. Yeah, so this is a way. I mean, I have a bookcase right over here, as opposed to like a separate bedroom. So like I'll be working, and then I'll listen to a record, write down some of the review stuff. And so yeah, I've finally turned it back from like a big hoard. I still have all the records, but from a hoard to more of a hobby. And sorry, give me just 1 second. Okay, it is important to have a hobby, but in my opinion, it's not a true hobby unless you are actively doing something with it. You have to use the tools in order to make something. My tool is my record collection, and how I'm making something is my YouTube channel, which allows me to share my love of records with the world. Not all hobbies need to be a way to make money or monetized, but they should all be something that means a lot to you, that you are passionate about, and are at least willing to share with others. Each record says something about me and my taste in music, and because I'm in the phase of interacting with and serving others, I've chosen to turn my hobby to a help, which in this case is my love for music, and specifically my love for vinyl records. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Zach Phillips. That second time was music to my ears. Actually, it was pretty darn good, I will admit. So thank you very much for that wonderful, wonderful speech. And I know that your evaluator will have a few points to think about, but mostly you did improve significantly. So I appreciate it. I actually saw your speech last night, and that was much, much, much better the second time around. So kudos, sir. Very, very, very good job. I would like 1 minute on the clock if we could have that. And during this time, if you could send your private messages to Zach, go to the bottom where it says chat, pull up Mr. Zach, and send him a private message if you could. All right, everybody. 1 minute is up. Our fourth speaker of the evening has not been in the club since March. Is that right, Marquise? Something like that. So it's been a minute, and a lot of people have been asking for Marquise to come back. So I finally pulled him all the way over here from Portsmouth and said, hey, I'll feed you if you come give a speech. And he agreed to do it, and he's here giving his fourth speech, okay? This is his research and presenting speech from his dynamic leadership path. Marquise Matthews, a speech titled My New Mercedes. You ever think about getting a Mercedes? Our next speaker will tell you about the research he is completing for his next car. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull up a video that is going to accompany his speech as part of his research speech. So you ready to come up, Marquise? Come on, buddy. It's right up here. Please welcome to the lectern. To the left. Come on, buddy. Please welcome to the lectern, Marquise Matthews.
Hey, how y'all doing? I will be talking about the ultimate luxury Mercedes. I was on Facebook and I liked it. This nice car. It was just nice and red. So I was like, okay, Robert was like, look, research something. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me research this car. I mean, I like it. So I might as well research it to get maybe to like think about it, see if I want it in 2021 or I mean anytime. Might want it one day. But I will be playing a video to let y'all see how awesome this car is.
Ready to go play?
Okay. Oh, I didn't I didn't know this. The line of the car is a line. It's a beautiful design. It is the rose gold. They are rose gold seats. And while she's opening this, it is nice. You got some nice tea in there. Some nice tea. Nice and hot. And as you got the flowers in the back, the bonnet. I ain't know what I couldn't pronounce the bonnet flowers. And as it's a beautiful thing that's like it's a line in the middle of the car. So and the rims, when she's throwing the rims, I already like rims. I like all kind of rims. It don't even matter. And then the lights in the car it's beautiful. And they was talking about, as she was saying, this is a first time car that is having the front is an SUV and the back that is a trunk of a saloon. And as a saloon, they call it an SUL. Sport utility limousine, as she was saying. And as when the car going forward is a green, and then when the car is backward is red. So it's kind of cool because you know, and when you like, okay, if you pushing, you like, okay, I'm in a green limousine. I'm going forward. I'm going forward, so it's green. So hopefully it don't be mixed up to a point where, I mean, never know why you going forward. I mean, it should be the right thing as going forward is green, and then when you know you're going backwards, it's going to be red. I don't know because the rating of this car is a 3.0 between a 5.0. The reliability is, I think by looking at this car and multiple times and by keep on doing research on it, I will buy this car. Because I mean, I can have a driver in front and I could be in the back as this car is this limousine luxury. I could drive my own, or I can have somebody else to drive me. I have some tea and I have tea and hopefully be some coffee. And how it is the way of the 2020, the 2021. It would be in 2021 ultimate. It's going to be costing. This car will be costing around $100,000 or $500,000. I think it was kind of confusing. I was trying to search it up. I didn't find the right price. Still, hopefully one day I can come back. I speak and tell y'all how much is exactly the right price of this car. As driving the car drives smooth. It drives smooth. Yeah, I can't say that. It drives smooth. It'd be good to drive the car. It'd be fun. People be like, okay, it's nice to drive that car, but I will buy it but I don't know how everybody have a different opinion. Everybody have a different opinion to the point they might not like that car, and some people might like that car. And to me, I would try to say, okay, if I was working at a dealership, I help somebody be able to knowing how, to tell them about the car, to make them maybe change their mind and change their mind and see how if they want to buy it and like, okay, that's interesting. They got the line, they got this, they got that. Details from 1 to 3 steps. So as I don't know, it's a lot still. I wish I could research. I know I been busy, but I have been researching, and I wish I could say more. I wish I could say more about the car. But I thank y'all for everybody. I thank y'all, and y'all have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. All right. Marquise, that was an enjoyable speech. It was very informative. There was lots of good stuff about an SUL. What is an SUL? A sport
utility luxury.
Sport utility limousine?
Limousine, yeah.
Limousine, there we go. So I've never heard of a Maybach before until he told me about it. So he researched it and gave me all the information. I thought it was pretty cool. So he's a car guy. It was an interesting car he chose. So I liked it. Thank you, sir. So if we could please have 1 minute on the clock. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to submit in the chat window. See where it says Robert Riggs Toastmasters. Now, he's on my screen right now, but go ahead and submit to Robert Riggs Toastmasters your evaluation of his evaluation or his research and presenting speech. Okay?
Thank you, Tammy. Thank y'all. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Asha. Linda, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thank everybody for coming. I feel like if y'all want to do some more research, the Maybach is on Google. You can search it up. It will be.
All right, thank you, sir. Everybody said speech. Adam had him come back, so he came back. All right, so there is one other thing that I would like to mention about Marquise. This is his 4th speech in about 9 months. He joined officially, it would have been last December when we chartered, but you were given a couple speeches before that. So it took him all this time, but he finally finished his L1. So Marquise, congratulations. Everybody, what we do in our club, it's a tradition. Please stand up out of your seats. And if you could, give him a round of applause. Way to go, Marquise. You're L1. Very good, sir. Congratulations. Keep coming back. Keep improving. So. All right. Now, our final speaker of the evening. Yes, speaker number 5. I do apologize. It's a little bit of a long evening. So we're trying to get some 5 speakers in here. We had a lot of people who wanted to speak. So our final speaker of the evening is Ms. Tammy Adama. She is speaking from the Pathways Visionary Communication Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting project because once you do this project, something opens in Pathways called the Pathways Mentoring Program. So if you actually ever do this, you can then go to a Pathways Mentoring Program. It used to be in the traditional program. It was just, hey, go mentor and do your thing. They actually have a well-defined program that you can look through. So for anybody who's interested, who's completed their L2, go check out the Pathways Mentoring Program. I know Tammy's going to be doing it after this speech. Her speech title is Being Mentored, an Opportunity to Excel. One of the greatest values of mentors is the ability to see ahead what others cannot see and to help them navigate a course to their destination. John C. Maxwell. Will you stay in your comfort zone or will you grasp the opportunity to excel and exceed your own self-imposed limitations? Please welcome to the lectern, the one, the only, my mentee, Tammy Adama.
Thank you. How many here have been a Toastmasters mentor or a mentor outside in your personal or professional life? Okay. How many of us have been a protege or a mentee? All right. So some of our first mentors were our parents, maybe teachers or coaches, anyone interested in our long-term goals. My first real experience being a mentee or protege was when I entered the Army. I arrived at my permanent duty station and I was, to be honest, a little hungover because on that base, the drinking age was only 18. So after PT, physical training, you know, we did our push-ups and our sit-ups and we did our running. We came back and I couldn't very well go collapse. So I just kind of leaned against the vending machine and fell asleep, which wouldn't have been too bad, except not being aware, I would have heard if I had just been a little bit aware, attention! And if I had only opened my eyes just a little bit, I might have seen everyone standing like this. But no, it was the silence that drew me in. I peeked out of one eye to see a man about this high standing directly in front of me. Behind him was a man this high, Command Sergeant Major. Stone, do you not see that full bird colonel standing in front of your face? Yes, Command Sergeant Major. Fortunately for me, the colonel did not see that as a sign of disrespect. He had found out I was a South Philly girl, and he thought that was just my feistiness and my attitude shining through. And okay, that worked for me. When his secretary went on maternity leave, it was me that was his first choice. Now, the colonel and the Command Sergeant Major were no-nonsense kind of guys you expect to find in the military. They don't ask you if you want to do something, they tell you. They not only tell you that you're going to do it, but when you'll have it done by. For instance, the colonel approaches me one day and has this giant manual in his hand and says, Stone, we are getting a computer tomorrow. And it's going to have the DOS program. Yes, I'm aging myself. I need you to study this manual and give us a presentation on Monday morning. Myself and the rest of the officers. Yes, sir. He walks away back into his office. Command Sergeant Major is peeking out his door at me with a big old grin on his face. He approaches me and says, Stone, that was my maiden name. You know anything about computers? No, Command Sergeant Major. You know anything about that DOS? No, Command Sergeant Major. Harmon, the colonel's driver, he knows about computers, and he may even know about that DOS. Thank you, Command Sergeant Major. A few weeks later, Command Sergeant Major stops by my desk again, says, Stone, Colonel's driver is going on leave. Yes, Command Sergeant Major. Colonel's going to need a driver. Yes, Command Sergeant Major. You're going to be his driver. No, Command Sergeant Major. I don't know how to drive stick. The Jeep is stick. But that didn't matter. Colonel said, you're going to do it. And he took me out every day at my lunch hour to learn how to drive stick. Now, in Toastmasters is not the Army. You have a choice. You can choose to grow and to stretch, or you can stay in your comfort zone. But you have all these resources at your fingertips. People have been there and they've done that, and they can help you because they're experienced. So why not take advantage of that? What do you really have to lose? Absolutely nothing. So thank you all, and Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tammy, for that absolutely wonderful speech. And for the record, I know about DOS too, and I'm in my early 30s, so maybe you're not really dating yourself. Just think about that. I know all about DOS. So thank you for that absolutely wonderful speech. I didn't know you were in the military, by the way. I think you told me that once, but I forgot. So I always learn these new things about Tammy. Crazy stories that she's been in the past, not just about her sons, but everything else that she's done between. So wonderful, wonderful speech. I sincerely appreciate it. By the way, if y'all didn't know, another little known fact about Tammy, that was actually her last speech in her level 2. So just like we did for Marquise, I think we're supposed to do something else. I think we're all supposed to stand up collectively like we do in our club and give her a nice big round of applause for completing her level 2. Way to go, Tammy. Congratulations. All right, Madam Timer, if you could do me a favor, could you please come up and tell the times for every one of the speakers?
For the speakers today, Asha, you got 6 minutes and 59 seconds. John, 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Zach, 6 minutes and 23 seconds. Marquise, 5 minutes and 41 seconds. Tammy, 6 minutes and 3 seconds.
All right. Thank you, Madam Timer. Now, as is the case in our club, we actually have a timer report not once, not twice, but thrice, because we actually like to vote on every single individual that we have. For example, or every single one of our speakers, every single one of our table topics, every single one of our evaluators. So whoever you thought was the best speaker, I would like for you to vote who you ever thought was the best speaker. Everybody qualifies. It was 5 to 7 for everybody, and everybody actually hit their time limits. So whoever you thought was best speaker, you're going to vote. Now, how you're going to do this is simple. We have an Andrew Bullock. Can everybody see an Andrew Bullock somewhere? Does everybody see him? Oh, there he is. If everybody could please send, I know John's looking for him. If everybody could please send their vote for best speaker to Andrew in the chat message below. So send a private message, go down to your chat, look up where it says Andrew Bullock, okay? Send it to him and say for who of the 5 speakers that you thought, which one of the 5 speakers that you thought were best. We have speaker number 1, Asha Zar. Speaker number 2, John Gregory. Speaker number 3, Zachary Phillips. Speaker number 4, Marquise Matthews. And speaker number 5, Tammy Adama. And in the meantime, we're going to take a quick, real quick, lightning quick 4-minute break. We're going to come back at 8:16, and we will ring it back in. I would ask Lee Walker to please pass it back over to me, and we'll go ahead and continue the evening at 8:16, okay? Take a quick break. Everybody unmute themselves, relax, go to the bathroom real quick, get a drink of water, and then we're all going to come back and be riveted by Vernell's lovely question. She's got about 5 questions for us, right, Vernell? 5 questions. So, welcome everybody back to our lovely meeting. This is the portion of the meeting. This is the second portion of the meeting. It's our table topics portion. And we actually have somebody designated for this one entire portion. That's Vernell Curtis. She's actually visiting from Tidewater Advanced Toastmasters. Thank you for coming out, Vernell. I've seen her speak multiple times. She always puts on a show. So without further ado, I'd like to hear the best 5 questions from Vernell. Vernell, unmute yourself if you could. I think Cleo's trying to, there you go. and take it away.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. This is the fun part of our meeting, impromptu speaking. I will be asking for volunteers. You are to speak 1 to 2 minutes. The topic this evening is homographs, words that are pronounced the same, spelled the same, but have different meanings. Do I have any volunteers? All right, is that, I see one hand. Who is that?
Hi,
That'd be
I'm
Asha.
Asha.
Okay, Asha, you have a choice of words that start with B or C. What would you like?
C, please.
All right, C. Circular. Talk about circular. A
That's
circle or an advertisement. 2 minutes.
Okay. So circular can refer to the shape of something. I will only be talking about one, but just to tell you about the differences, you have a circular you can look through. Something can be circular in shape, and you can also, along with the geometry of a shape, have a circular way of thinking. So it goes into the abstract as well. I would like to talk about the shape rather than the supermarket circular, because honestly, that's more of a rectangle. So a circular thing can be likened to the Fibonacci sequence, which is not perfectly circular, but it does come back on itself like the spiral of a seashell. So you never come back to the exact same spot, but if you're doing something on a graph, you will find that with the z-axis, the circular motion actually takes on a spherical shape. And you might see things in your life that come back around. And an experience that you've had before, where you may have had challenges, will come back around again so that you can see, ooh, have I learned from this? Did I react differently? Did I respond in a more positive way, a more humorous way? Was I lighter? Was I more empathetic? And in the same way, listening can be circular, because when you think about the cosmos, whether you're looking at a flower or when you're looking at the planets, life is really circular. There are no straight lines in nature. The galaxies, ellipses are not circular, but they do have that arc. And that's the nature of something circular. It's artistic, it's science, it blends the two and it makes them much greater than it is. We would not exist without the circular motion of the lymph and the blood coursing through our veins and our arteries. The stars and the galaxies would not exist without the circular motion as it all goes through space and rotates around, whether it's a moon rotating around a planet or the galaxies all rotating around each other in the universe. And for this reason, circular can be thought of as both a microcosm and a macrocosm. And I'm just going to close this on my very favorite number, which is 0, which has no number at all, but is a fulcrum. And because it is a fulcrum, all of creation is encompassed in it, whether you have -1 trillion and +1 trillion, or even googolplex, which is the largest number that we know of or can name. They all come to a balance there, as life does when we are in harmony, just as a circle teaches us to be, with a 360-degree outlook on life and peace. Thank you, Mrs. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Now, I need, thank you very much. I need a second volunteer. And let me just clarify. I'm going to give you the 2 words, but you don't have a choice. You have to use both of them in the table topics. But that's all right. We're going to continue on. Who's my next volunteer? No one?
I think Bryant raised his hand right there, Bryant Rano.
Okay, Brian.
He hasn't spoken tonight.
And then we have John is next after that. All right, where's Brian? I don't see him. Okay, there you go. What is your choice, Brian? Do you want an L or
going on?
what?
I'm
you
sorry.
You can have an L or a P.
I'll take a P.
All right, your word is pound.
You said
weight or to beat something. Pound.
Okay. Pound. So pound is a weight that can be lifted, can be carried, can be dragged, can be pushed. Now, what is this pound all about? Well, a pound can be a certain material to someone in their lives. It can be a weight of a burden. It can be the weight of, or the drag of a history. It could be the push towards the future. Pound can be something that someone will need to work against in their lives. They will need to continuously become stronger in order to make this pound, this weight, lighter toward them. At first, this weight will be very heavy towards them. They will not be able to probably move it. Ways to improve themselves in their lives to be able to move this weight. So this pound in their lives is something that will not only weigh them down at first, but it will also strengthen their body and their mind to overcome their obstacle, whichever that may be in their lives. I'm sorry, I gotta keep it short. Gotta keep it short. There's fireworks still going on, so my dogs are going crazy.
All right. John, did you also want to participate? Okay. What letter would you like? You have L or O?
Let's do O.
O. Your word is overlook. Overlook. Not to notice something and to be on a cliff and overlook onto something else. Overlook.
Okay. All right. So the other day, I went on this really awesome adventure where I overlooked the mountainside and I got to see this awesome view. Everything was really beautiful. It was the best view ever. There's lots of cool things going on, and oh man, this is hard. That's a hard word. Okay, hold on. So a lot of times in life, we overlook the small stuff. And because of that, we miss out on the whole perspective of what we're actually trying to get in life. So, oh man, I don't know. I'm struggling.
Fine.
Okay, I don't know. Can I say it just like, can I make up a story with those words?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so a couple of these people were walking down the street the other day and they noticed to their right, there was a really awesome looking boat. Now their buddy to the left of them, he actually ended up overlooking it because he didn't see the boat. He saw something beyond the boat. He saw the ocean itself. All his friends were stuck on this boat and looking at it, but he's the only one overlooking the boat because he didn't really care. He cared about the ocean. He just wanted to get in the water. So he ended up having a better mindset than them, and instead of dreaming about this boat, he went and jumped in the water. And the whole overlook of his mindset and everything was so positive that all his friends were like, oh, forget this boat. Let's go jump in this water and go swimming. And that's what they all did. The end.
Well, that was 3. We have time for 2 more. Do I have any more volunteers?
JP has his hand up.
Okay, JP. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good. You can choose from B or F.
F.
F, fair, agreeable, or it can be a local event. So you have to use.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the word?
Fair, F-A-I-R, agreeable, or a local event. I'm going to the fair. Take it away.
Okay. So at work, I am seen as somewhat of a unagreeable person, and that could be axiomatic. If you ever get the chance to work for me, it makes sense. Like I worked, I got a lot of qualifications. So then on the back end, you're supposed to be able to relax and wait for your time to transfer out of your command. Not everybody agrees with that. They don't think it's fair. Well, I'm not a fair person. If I did all the hard work, well, it's your turn to do it. And I believe that you are supposed to. Ruano can agree with this. Every chance I got, if I could make him stay longer, I would. If I could make his life a little bit harder than mine, I would. And sometimes people would find it hard, but like I would find a little bit of enjoyment making sure that Ruana would go to those extra dress blues inspection, or Ruana would stay behind for those dress white inspections, or clean the areas behind. You remember those days, Ruana, where you would have you could almost go home at 12 o'clock, but then I'd find a way to make you stay till 4. And then I'd be leaving around 2, and since we were roommates, you'd see me leave and wait for you at my house. So although I may not be a fair person, that is arguable. I think I am fair when it comes to me. Not a lot of people, but me works. Madam Table Topics Master.
Yeah. So as a fair person, you're going to take yourself to the fair? I have time for one more. All right.
Linda hasn't done anything tonight.
Linda, A or T?
T.
Okay, T, tender, gentle, money. Talk about them both. Gentle, money.
Tender. Well, I am a grandmother, and with an 18-month-old boy, toddler, and he just is adorable and the light of my life. And we have many tender moments, grandma and grandson. He is so adorable, and he is all over the place, running, climbing, getting into whatever he can before we stop him. And those are our tender moments, you know. It's just very warm. And then there's the tender, the money. And tender is often, we think of it as bills and payments. And with COVID, I've not touched a bill in a long time. Nobody wants money anymore. It's like put in a card and we don't want to touch it. So where tender is with my grandson, very much touching. This kind of tender with money, I don't know if it's going to be obsolete or not, but we don't like touching that kind of tender. There you have it.
Thank you. To all our table topic speakers, everyone did an exomatic job. Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you, madam. That was a beautiful and creative. I actually have never seen that style of table topics before. I might have to use that in the future. See what I'm talking about? She always comes up with good ideas. I blame Vernell for all the good ideas, okay? Keep it up. I love it. I love it. Our next part of the evening, I'm actually going to pass it over to our general evaluator, Marty, if that's okay. I'd like to have Marty introduce all the evaluators because we're now going to go to the third portion. And excuse me, I do apologize. Apparently, there's also a timers report that needs to be done. I almost made that mistake. It's not the first time. So I'd like to report that there were 5 speakers. The time limit was 1 to 2 minutes. Our first table topics individual was Asha. Hers was 3 minutes and 32 seconds. The second individual was Bryant. His was 1 minute and 21 seconds. Way to go, Bryant. John, who's over there smoking, was 1 minute and 47 seconds. JP was 1 minute 59 seconds, and Linda was 1 minute and 30 seconds. So in order to qualify, you need to go for at least a minute, and you cannot go over 2:30. So unfortunately, Asha, you do not qualify tonight. However, you can vote for best table topics from Bryant, John, JP, and Linda. So of those 4 individuals, go ahead and send your votes to Mr. Andrew Bullock. He'll go ahead and tally them, and then he'll send them over to our president, our acting president tonight, Mr. Jose John Paul. So without further ado, go ahead and send those votes in. I would now like to hand the meeting over to Marty, our general evaluator, who's going to introduce our speech evaluators for the night. Mr. Marty, and I, for some reason, have forgotten your last name, so I apologize. But Marty, what's your last name again?
You can see on the screen, it's General Evaluator.
There you go, Marty, General Evaluator. Welcome, sir.
Marty Bussert.
Bussert, there we go.
The evaluation portion of the meeting really falls into 3 categories. The first is the evaluators who will evaluate the prepared speeches. Then the second is the reports from the people that I introduced earlier. And then the third is my impressions of the general overall meeting. So let's start with our evaluation portion of the speeches. Our first evaluator is Cleo, and she's going to evaluate Asha's speech. Cleo.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I have the honor this evening of evaluating Toastmaster Asha Zar's Phantastical Phantasm speech. She gave part 1 of the evaluation and feedback portion of her project, and I hope I will have the pleasure to evaluate her second speech in the project. I'm going to go over 5 things that she excelled at. Number 1, show and tell. I enjoyed seeing that large, well-worn, and well-loved tome. The book has a character of its own. And later, she opened up one of the books to show us a few of the pages. I found that very enjoyable, and it kindled my interest in those books even more. Number 2, descriptive words or imagery from the books. When you mentioned pigs having wings, I imagined that. When you mentioned Nana and the house falling up, I pictured that. Number 3, her enthusiasm. It was axiomatic or very self-evident that she enjoyed her topic. I could feel the enthusiasm that she had for her subject. And when her enthusiasm was infectious, it made me more interested in the topic. So I really enjoy when speakers get really into their topic. Thank you for sharing your enthusiasm. Number 4, audience participation. When you invited Toastmaster Tammy Adama to share her favorite TV show, I believe it was Anne of Green Gables, that was pretty cool. I need to work on that in my speeches. So thank you for giving the audience a chance to respond to your speech. And number 5, sound effects. when you said that you loved how the dwarves grunted, you like grunted with your voice. I really like that. I don't know what it's called. I was looking it up. I know there's a word for it, but I really enjoyed that part when you did the sound effects. Because I used to do storytelling in high school, and I did all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed that part. Now for the second portion of the evaluation, what you may want to work on, you may want to work on practicing your speech a little bit more. It appeared that you were nervous at times, and to help alleviate that, some of your nervousness during your speech, maybe just practice it a little more. But you did one thing that I would have advised for you to help combat nervousness is to just pause, and you did that to collect your thoughts to continue on with your speech. And to challenge yourself, I really enjoy the show and tell portion. So if you could show more books or pages, it gives me a reason to check out some ebooks from the library. So just share more of that. I don't need I need all the excuses. I have too many books at home, but if you share more, I will go ahead and put those books on hold to read myself. And overall, it was a fun and creative speech about books. How could I not love it? I work at the library. And thank you. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Cleo. Our second evaluator is Tiffany, and she will evaluate John's speech. Tiffany.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Dunbar. And this evening, I will be evaluating John's speech. The speech title was Danger Dan. Thank you so much for that speech. I really enjoyed it. You jumped out of the gate running. You talked about something that we could all relate to. The first thing that you talked about was losing sight of what's important from time to time. Is there anyone in this meeting who can't relate to that? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So we can all relate to that. So you drew us all in from the very beginning. The second thing, which we can all relate to as Toastmasters, the need to come out of our comfort zones, the need to experience new things. So from the very beginning, you caught my attention, and I'm sure that you caught everyone else's attention. Thank you so much for your wonderful speech. I'm going to give you some feedback moving forward. And I will say this, I wish that I had the opportunity to see the first version of that speech and what you were tasked with working on, because I don't know what the original version was and what the feedback was. So I wish I had the opportunity to compare those two speeches. But since I didn't, I just have to go with what I had. Again, you drew us in from the very beginning. You talked about something that we could all relate to. You took us on a journey, White River. Is that a tongue twister to you? White River rafting, okay? and so you took us on this wonderful journey. One thing that I wish you had done a little bit more of, and I believe that Cleo talked about it a little bit, about how we bring things to life. And how do we do that? We bring our stories to life through the senses: touch, smell, sight, taste. Okay, so when you talk about those little rocks or those little pebbles, I would have loved to know what color were they? What size were they? Were they as big as pancakes, or were they as small as quarters? And that would have really drew us in a little bit more. So just something for you to work on moving forward. Another thing that I was just a little bit confused about, I thought that the title was great, Danger Dan, but I don't really see the connection. I don't really see the connection. I can see how he may have been a dangerous person, but how did his persona affect you? How did he inspire you? I would have liked to hear about that a little bit more. So I don't know. I didn't really get the connection, although it was a great speech title. And I don't know if that's something that they talked to you about in the first, when you initially delivered the speech. So those are just a few things that I will work on. But overall, I do think that the speech was great, just a little bit more colorful language, making connections. Oh yeah, and one more thing, the call to action. The call to action, you had so many opportunities to make that call to say, like, listen, you guys really need to get out here and do more speeches or go for that promotion on your job or whatever it is that they need to do to get to the next level of whatever. But that call to action could have been a little bit stronger. That's something that you may want to work on, but that will come in time. Is my understanding that this is only your second speech. Great job. And I look forward to hearing more speeches. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. Our next evaluator is Lynn, and she's going to evaluate Zachary's speech. Lynn.
Thank you, Marty. Good evening, Zach. Your title was From Hoarder to Helper, Hobbies, LPs, and I. What you excelled at. You knew your information, and you showed passion about the subject. That is what you excelled at. The areas that I'm going to talk about are your clarity. Your language was easy to follow. Your volume was steady. Your eye contact, it was okay. We're going to talk about that. Your audience awareness, I was aware, but we're going to talk about that as well. Your interest, it was interesting to me because it was talking about old music, LPs. You know, people don't know that much about it, so it was interesting to me, and I knew a little bit about that. And I wasn't sure what the feedback was from the last time. So I'm going to give you a little bit of critique. Hope you're paying attention. I would like you to challenge yourself, Zach, on organizing your speech. So you had this great hobby. You had this great title, From Handler to Helper, Hobbies, LPs, and I. If you were to organize your speech and say, group, I'm going to talk about my hobbies, LPs, and then a little bit about me or I, then you would have those categories that would help the audience remember what you was talking about. And then in the conclusion of your speech, you can remind them, this is why it is my hobbies, LP, and a little bit about me. Also, when you walked away from the camera to play that song or to play that Grace Jones LP, I did recognize it. That is not good for speakers to do. You could have had an assistant to play that LP for you so you never lose the eye contact of the audience. I said that I would get back to eye contact. So when you walked away from the camera, you lost eye contact with us. And when I looked at all of the people on this Zoom meeting, some of them was not looking into the camera, and that is not good. We want people to be looking at us and we want to keep it interesting. But when we walk away, we take away from our presentation. So again, you had great, easy usage of words. It was interesting. You had passion. And again, you did a great job. But the next time, for anyone who is doing level 1, speech 3, when you're doing the introduction, say, this speaker is looking to work on gestures, volume, whatever it might be, so that the evaluator can say those areas were improved upon, or at least they were good. Zach, great speech. I'm glad that you have a hobby and a love for LPs, and I hope to hear from you again when I visit the next time. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Our next evaluator is Elizabeth, and she will evaluate Marquise's speech. Elizabeth.
Hi. All these wonderful people here, and especially Marquise. Marquise, I'm so glad you came back to our club. We've missed you a whole lot. Hey there. Wow. My new Mercedes. Oh, what a dream title. What a dream title. I'm talking about my new Frontier. I know when I bought my first, it was the first truck I ever bought for myself. Everyone else all my other cars had to be bought, by someone else, the first one I did. So you made me interested in having a Mercedes. I think it was really genius of you to have the video of someone showing off a Mercedes. I never would have believed all the beautiful parts and all the fancy things it could do. Oh my gosh, yes. And you could be either the driver or you could be person sitting in the back and having a chauffeur drive you around. I could tell you really, really, really had great thoughts in that. And I commend you on picking out a great car to look forward to in the future. Because when we have a great future to look at, going through COVID, it's like, oh God, what's my future? Oh, a new Mercedes is in my future. The car of your dreams. Your voice variety was really good. Your voice volume. The last time you were speaking at our club, we could hardly hear you, Marquise, and you have either because your microphone on your computer at Robert's house is much better, but we could hear you loud and clear. So excellent improvement. I would say I challenge you to have your description of the parts of the car correlate with the movie, the video of the car. As she was showing different things, have what you say correlate to what she's working on. Work on organization of the speech. So your beginning was good. You're going to have a new Mercedes, and have a good ending, and have a logical progression from one part to the next. I would like also, you weren't sure about how much it was going to cost. I'm going to fantasize about having a new Mercedes too, but I really want to know how much money I have to save up. So the next time you talk about a Mercedes, tell us how much it's going to cost. Thank you, Mercedes, for coming back, and I hope we hear you again and again and again. It's a lot easier when you don't have to drive a long way, isn't it? Mr. General Evaluator, back to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our next evaluator is Andrew, and he's going to evaluate Tammy's speech. Andrew.
Fellow Toastmasters, and especially Tammy, I absolutely enjoyed your speech. Now, you're working on the Toastmasters mentoring project, and the objective here is to clearly define how Toastmasters envisions mentoring. And you do this by sharing some aspect of a previous experience as a protege, basically highlighting what you learned from a mentor. And you did exactly that by giving us a deep, immersive story of when you were in the army, when you were in the military, and all the things that you learned from your mentor. Now, one of the most important things about delivering speeches like this is being able to do what we call excellent storytelling. When you deliver your story, you use your facial expressions and gestures and your descriptive words to create vivid imagery so that we can visualize and see in our heads exactly what you're telling us. And you did exactly that. You stayed on topic and you kept the audience interested. We were all waiting to hear what would happen next. How would you be punished? What was going to be your next task? And you did that very effectively. Now, two things I'd like for you to work on. One is effective pausing. There was moments in your speech where you paused just a little too long, and sometimes when you pause too long, people like me, our minds tend to wander. You gotta work on your pacing just a little bit, just to keep everybody with you as you deliver your speech. And one other thing I'd like you to work on is your conclusion. It kind of felt rather abrupt, but you're still developing your organization and delivering these speeches, so there's a little learning curve with developing an effective conclusion. One thing I would like to challenge you to do in the future, when we are in this virtual environment, you especially like to use a virtual background. So I would like to challenge you to use a virtual background that matches your story. Just a thought, just to keep things interesting. You know, we see that beautiful sunset behind you, but it didn't really fit with your story. So next time, try to come up with something that will match your story so that it's easier for people to follow along and get immersed. But otherwise, you did a fantastic job. Excellent completing your level 2, and I look forward to hearing more of your speeches. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andrew. At this point, we're going to move to our reports, and I'm going to start with the timer. This will be her third and final option. Julita?
For the 2 minutes and the 2 to 3 minutes evaluators, Chloe, 3 minutes. Tiffany, 3 minutes and 28 seconds.
Lynn.
Lynn, 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Elizabeth, 2 minutes and 35 minutes. And Andrew, 2 minutes, 53 minutes. Seconds.
And everybody qualifies, so that they want to vote, they can go ahead, whoever they thought was the best evaluator, send it to Andrew Bullock via chat below.
Okay, thank you, Julita, for that timer's report. Our next report is our Grammarian counter, JP.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And starting off with me, I counted 4 ums, 1 y'all, 1 And if anybody else counted more, please message me in the chat. Rob had a so y'all. For Asha's speech, he used her very second speech, which was off. Asha, you had 6 and 3 o, who, which was your repeater word. For John Gregory, you had 6 o, 3 uhs, 2 you knows, where you were kind of repeating it. Zach, but yeah, was a repeater word. You know, yeah, used twice, 5 times, so 3 times, and which I'm just gonna count them together for a 10 times, and but for 2 times. Marquise Matthew, I was like, which was your repeater. I don't know, which you were using a lot. Let y'all see. They was talking about, you had will be costing, I don't know y'all, in search instead of research, where you're going for. Tammy, you had 2 ands and a big ol' instead of Bryant, I really tried hard to find more for you, honestly. But you had a so. Cleo didn't find anything. Tiffany, you had 1 so. Lynn couldn't find anything. Elizabeth found a Andrew found a And that's my report, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, JP. Our next report is our word master, and listen up. Lee. You need to unmute.
Okay. Word of the evening, axiomatic. It's used once by Marty and once by JP. For to listen up, what was the trilogy that Asha talked about? Oh, can you unmute everybody?
Is it The Hobbit?
The sequel
Yeah.
to The Hobbit, the 3 books after it,
For the
that
ring.
the movie was based on.
The Lord of the Rings?
Right, Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
What was, on John's trip, what did John do?
Water rafting.
Whitewater.
What state is Zach from?
Ohio.
Right. What does SUL stand for?
Sports Utility Limousine.
No.
What?
Sports
Sports utility limousine.
Limousine, correct.
Oh.
Which branch of the military was Tammy in?
Army.
Army.
And what was the activity that she at first could not do?
DOS.
Report on DOS.
Okay, that's one, but what's the other?
Drive stick.
Right, okay. And what did Linda talk about in her table topic?
Homograph.
Her grandson.
Okay, being a grandmother, grandson, all right. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you.
You need to unmute yourself, Marty. She muted everybody.
All right. The reports are done, and now it's my turn. As the general evaluator, I am not supposed to evaluate the speeches. I'm supposed to evaluate the evaluations of the speeches. And I'd like to do that by saying, excellent job, all of you. What I noticed most of you do is what's called the sandwich effect. You start off the evaluation telling about all the good things they did, all the things you liked. Then the middle portion was the parts where they can work on, the things that they're challenged with, the suggestions that you have for improving the speech. And you ended the evaluation again with a very positive message on how it went. Excellent job, all evaluators. Well done. Give yourself some applause. The next thing, I just want to check to make sure I heard right. Everyone who listened to Marquise's speech, he's going to give us a Mercedes limo. Is that correct? Maybe I misheard that.
No, that's correct. It is in fact correct.
Table topics. Burnell, wonderful, wonderful table topics. Two definitions of the same word, excellent. I really enjoyed that. As Robert said, I'm going to steal that in my club. Thank you. One of the things I remember from one of the speeches is tomorrow is not guaranteed. Well, we understand that because normally Toastmasters meet face to face. And over the last several months, we've been meeting via Zoom. I've had the opportunity to attend many Zoom meetings as I was an area director for the last several months. And all of them are challenged with Zoom. I'd like to say that you have a good club. It's a great club. Your use of Zoom is extremely good. The flow of the meeting was spot on. If I wasn't already in 4 other clubs, I would consider joining yours. Congratulations. Mr. Toastmaster, back to you.
Thank you, Marty, for that glowing general evaluation. I sincerely appreciate all your praise. And I can tell you right now that our club also appreciates it. It's one thing to hear it from somebody inside the club, but to hear from somebody outside the club, it means that much more. So thank you, sir, for everything that you came out tonight and took time out of your busy schedule, working with the district, working with me. We even met up this Saturday, and I'm glad that you were able to agree to come out tonight. So thank you, sir. I want to say one last thing. This has been one of my favorite meetings. Honestly, it's my first meeting of the year as the official president, even though JP's the acting president tonight because he won the coin flip. He didn't lose it, he won it. So I'll let him close it out, but before I do, there is one small thing. I have this individual who I'm in a relationship with her. I date her. Her name's Brenda Paredes. And Brenda has actually been homebound for the last 2 weeks because, believe it or not, she got COVID. And I just wanted to unmute, if we could real quick, Cleo, if we could unmute everybody. If you could, everybody just give thanks to Brenda. She just got her first negative test today. She no longer has COVID. So everybody give her a clap.
Yay!
Brenda. And real quick, just tell us for a quick 30 seconds about the whole experience, if you could. And why you're glad to no longer have COVID.
Can't hear.
We can't hear you.
She is unmuted.
Can you go?
Nope, can't hear you.
No, I'm sorry. Well, she is in California, so it's kind of hard to hear her from all the way over there.
Turn your mic.
But it's probably just some of your sound settings on your on your computer. But definitely send her some warm greetings via the chat down below. If you could do me a favor, send her some some get well wishes and all that kind of stuff like that, even though she's now well. So it's been a little bit of a secret, but she does work in healthcare, everybody. She actually works in a nursing home. So when you get COVID in a nursing home, you don't get to go to work. You get to go home and stay there. And now that she's negative, she can go back to work and do what she does best, which is help individuals in a nursing home. So thank you very much, Brenda Paredes, for coming out tonight. I'm sorry that you didn't get a chance to do table topics, but that's okay. We'll try to get you in next time. But everybody, thank you for coming out tonight. And I do want to say that you are wonderful. I look forward to meeting you again in about a week. And then I'm going to pass it over to our acting president, Mr. Jose John Paul, who has turned off his video and muted himself. If you could do me a favor, go ahead and close out the meeting with our guests and our awards and all that good stuff. Thank you, sir.
Next time, we'll map out the rules on this coin toss. But in the meantime, before I do my part, I'd like to pass it out to Andrew Bullock so that he can make a couple announcements for himself as well.
How's everybody doing? I'm back. All right, give me 1 second to share screen. We have a meeting coming up next week, and that meeting is going to be on July 14th. We're looking for a volunteer to be Toastmaster of the evening and a volunteer for General Evaluator. Do we have any volunteers? Anybody available? Speak now. Speak now.
I volunteer. Hello?
Sorry, go ahead, Cleo.
I volunteer for General Evaluator.
Thank you, Cleo. And do I have a Toastmaster of the evening? I'm going to hold us hostage until I have a Toastmaster of the evening.
Asha said she'll do it.
I didn't, mine was muted. But I was previously volunteered and now I am ready, yes. So I am volunteering myself.
Thank you, Asha. Thank
You're
you for
welcome,
stepping
Andrew.
up. If you need any help, you know how to reach me.
I do, thank you.
All righty. That's all I have for this evening, and I will pass it back to you, Mr. President.
VPM. That's not a minced word. VPM.
I mean, when you're acting president, you know, tradition is to still refer to you as Mr. President, so.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. President.
All right. So then, without further ado, actually, I'd like to hear from some of the guests. What did y'all think? What did y'all think about this meeting? And I'll start with Vernell. What did you think? Oh, you're muted. Can we unmute her?
I thought the meeting went very well. Everything flowed nicely. All the speeches were excellent, very passionate, something that they all had a desire to tell us about. So it's a meeting well done. Thank you for inviting me, Andrew, and I look forward to coming back another time.
Thanks for coming out.
And can we get Tiffany Dunbar unmuted? I'd like to hear from her as well.
Oh, hi everyone. Well, I thought that the meeting was great. In fact, I am thinking about joining the meeting. I think I'm going to join this group so that I can become an official member and so that I can give some speeches. This is a great group, great evaluations, and great support. So I look forward to meeting with you guys next week, and perhaps you can send me an email so that I can join this evening.
Tiffany, you send me a text message and I will reach out to you.
All right, right on. And Betty Lewis?
Hi, I thought this was an incredible meeting. I learned just as much from the speakers as I did from the evaluators. I actually took notes. You guys provided such great perspective and different things that I didn't really consider in speech giving. I was sitting here, my daughter's sitting in the room with me right now, and she was describing like the descriptive speaking of what the rocks felt like. My daughter just wrote her first book, and it made me think of things to remind her of when she's writing as far as speaking more descriptively about what she's experiencing, because it did make a difference. When I thought about his story, whitewater rafting, and I inserted my own descriptions, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm there. So yeah, I really enjoyed this Toastmasters event tonight. That's my daughter waving at you guys.
Hi.
And then Marty, again, thanks again for being the general evaluator. What did you think?
I actually heard my evaluation.
Oh yeah, I did. All right, then Lynn Claiborne.
I thought the meeting was great. I enjoyed all the guests that were willing to participate so that the members of this club could give their speeches. That is what Toastmasters is all about. That safe, that friendly environment where you can learn, give feedback, and no one's feelings is hurt, because the next speech that you give, you will see improvement. So Betty Lewis, if this is the day that you're supposed to join, this is the club for you. Shy you can be, but you need to grow. Robert, great job. Everyone did a great job tonight.
Oh, thank you. And last but not least, Linda, what did you think?
Oh, I had a great time tonight. I missed Toastmasters, so I did get a good Toastmasters fix. You guys are such a wonderful supporting group. Very positive, really good feedback, and you can tell that you're encouraging each other as well. If I lived closer to you guys, I would join this club as well. It's got a really good feeling to it. So thank you.
Just so you know, Linda, we will be continuing virtually even once COVID's over.
Oh, are you?
Asha's in Philadelphia.
I know.
I'm in Pennsylvania.
So then, moving on, again, if you wanted anything from my grammarian evaluation, I still have it written down, and you could just reach out to me via email, and I'll be sure to let you know like what y'all how you did for any of the speakers or evaluators. But without further ado, can I get a drum roll for the table topics, or a fake drum roll? There it is. And the best table topics goes to Linda Hiller.
Yeah.
And now for best evaluator. And now can I get another fake drum roll? Especially you, John Gregory. Whoever else is doing the drum rolls with their mouth. Yeah. And it was a tie. It was a tie between Lynn and Andrew.
Woo!
So, and you know how we doing in the beginning of Toastmasters. We're gonna have an evaluation off.
Battle Royale style.
Can you imagine that? Like someone just had to give an impromptu speech, and someone just, well, I think because of this, and now it's sandwich moment. Well, because of this, and then everybody's like, oh, God, who actually? Okay, congrats to both.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. It's late at night, and I've got Dexter to watch. And for the best speaker of the night, can I get one last drum roll? And this makes sense because everybody was talking about rocks and how they feel. John Gregory, you killed it with your speech. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
So,
You guys
yeah,
are
take
awesome.
Tiffany's advice about describing them rocks, because apparently everybody was stuck on them rocks and how it felt.
When I get the speech, y'all are gonna learn about those rocks.
So, are they metamorphic? Are they sedimentary, igneous? Like, we have to know. Do anybody have anything for me before I close out the meeting?
I'll say one thing. Consistent with our club, we're actually trying to do our dues a little early, but we're going to go through the officers first. But after that, we're going to move over into everybody else. So I know dues period normally starts in August, but we're actually going to start ours in July so that when September rolls around, we don't have any dues and we don't have to worry about it. So everybody just know that in the next month or so, you're going to hear a call from either JP or from Jorny, who's not here tonight, unfortunately, because she's working. But one of those two is going to reach out to you, okay?
Can I say something real quick?
Oh, yes, go for it.
Okay, sorry about the lack of video. I'm actually driving. But you guys, you all did awesome. I think the evaluators did awesome. I think the people giving speeches did awesome. Like all the people doing table topic did awesome. You guys are a great community, and I'm glad that I joined the group because y'all are definitely helping me get out of my shell. I might seem like an outgoing person, but I get super nervous. Just like all of you guys, I'm sure you do. I get super nervous. So thank you guys.
Can I say something too?
Yeah, go for it. Go for
So
it.
on the same lines, I talk a lot because I'm so shy. Tammy, unless you know me really well. But usually I'm really shy around strangers and I like you all. So thank you for making this easier to chat with you.
Right.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for the club? So without further ado, have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Bang. Night, everybody.
Night.
Right.